The following video is brought to you and sponsored by Queen City Gaming. Pre-orders are available for the Last Sun and Moon trading card game expansion, Cosmic Eclipse. Click the link down in the description below and go to queencitygaming.com to pre-order now, and I hope you enjoy the video. Yo, what is up guys, Figment here, coming to you straight from imagination, and today I'm bringing you guys a deck profile over the list that I played at the New Jersey Regional Championships this past weekend. And this deck is called Flareon and Friends, of course, and I'm just going to jump right into it here. Flareon is the special tech card that I chose to put into the deck for this list for this weekend. Flareon GX, for those of you who don't know, each stage is its first attack, requires a fire energy. You can attach up to 3 energies from your hand when you use the attack, while also doing 30 damage. It has a nice 210 HP, so it's a little harder to knock out by Pokemon that aren't necessarily Reshizard. For a Mewtwo deck, if they don't have a Reshizard in play, it's a little harder to get a one-shot on it maybe in a turn. And just decks like Pikarom, they need to hit 2 Electro Powers as opposed to something on a Heatran. If they use Tantum Shock, they might need to hit an extra Electro Power. And the main reason we have Flareon on the list here is to use the GX move, which is Power Burner GX, which does 20 damage for each fired energy in the discard pile. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, huh, that sounds familiar. And that is because you're probably thinking of Victini Prism Star, which is also in this list, which does the exact same thing for the attack, and it shuffles in the energies. The benefit of Flareon, though, is all the fire energies stay in the discard, so your goal with this list is to discard a bunch of fire energies from your field and from your deck. To attack with Flareon, use Power Burner GX, max out at 280 damage, before saving 2 energies left in your deck to use Victini Prism Star the next turn, so you can basically infinity twice. Now, of course, this combination is a little harder to pull off, but you have plenty of cards such as Turtonator to discard fire energies from the field, and your goal is to just load up as many fire energies onto the field your first couple turns of play, attack with things like Turtonator and Heatran to maybe early on get some knockouts on things, before finishing the game off with the Flareon GX and or the Victini Prism Star. Now, of course, this weekend I did not do as well as I was initially hoping for. On the day, technically day 1, I did go 6-2-1, and then in the League Cup following, I ended up making top 32, going 4-2 the day after. Now you might be thinking, or hearing me say that, the only reason I say I went 6-2-1 day 1 is because one match, I didn't show up to the correct table in New Jersey. I believe that was round 8. I didn't show up to the correct table, and therefore I got a game loss, though the opponent that I did end up playing was a Mewtwo deck, and I ended up playing against them and beating them. Now, the other matchup that I'm saying that I won, but I didn't, was against Simple Cephalon deck. I let my opponent take back a misplay because I'm too nice for my own good, and that they basically used double custom catcher, brought up a Flareon GX, declared their attack mind blown. They didn't have enough to knock out. They would have been hitting the Flareon for 200 damage, and I would have taken the knockout to win the game the next turn. Instead, I was stupid. I let my opponent take back the double custom catcher and the mind blown attack because, you know, that's smart. And I ended up losing that game in game 3 because of a couple just shortcomings on draws. Now, the main reason this deck has some troubles is because, frankly, even though you play 4 Jirachi, you play 3 Dedenne, you play plenty of draw cards, you're really relying on Welder. Now, Welder, if you guys don't know, is you attach 2 fire energies from your hand to one of your fire-type Pokemon, or actually not fire-type, I misread the card there, to any one of your Pokemon, and you draw 3 cards. Welder is one of the most powerful cards in the format right now, and you're basically abusing this additional attachment of energy to get off big attacks off Turtonator early on in the game, using Explosive Jet, discarding a massive amount of fire energy off your field to hit for those big numbers for those tag team knockouts for 250 to 300 damage. And of course, now this list, of course, with Reshizard, is a little different from the others, primarily because we use cards like the Eevee and the Flareon, but we also don't play a Baby Blacephalon. Now, Baby Blacephalon was something that was considered being like a standard in a lot of Reshizard lists going into this weekend. I chose to actually cut it, primarily because I found that for Flareon's GX move, your attack is doing more damage the more fires you have in the discard pile. And a lot of these new fire decks that I've seen have cut from the previous 17 energies in the list, going down to 12, 13 energies, and frankly with Flareon GX's attack, you really want to be able to hit those higher numbers, and only hitting 240 damage maximum just doesn't seem good. Of course, on the other note, those lists are playing Fire Crystal and Baby Blacephalon. Frankly, unless you're playing a ridiculous like 20 energies in the deck, it really just doesn't work out as efficiently. Not to mention Fire Crystal, you have the ability to get fire energies back into your hand easily. Without those being played in the list, there's really no benefit to that. Now, another benefit with EVGX in this list is you can also search it out with Cherish Ball. Both Flareon and Eevee are searchable by Cherish Ball, so it's not as hard to get out as you would normally think. You play a higher increased count of Vulpix, so you play a 3-2 Vulpix Ninetales line to ensure that you can get the Ninetales out every single game, because typically 9 Temptations is one of your fastest ways to get fire energies into the discard pile without basically using an Explosive Jet or just hoping that you can discard them off of Dedenne. Now, of course, besides that, EVGX is a very underrated card. It basically wins your Malamar matchup, and I speak in ideals here, but EVGX, you put up in the active, you have Boost Dash, which hits for 100 damage, and of course Joymaker GX. I only had to use Joymaker once this weekend, and that was because I was dead drawing. Not an ideal play at all. If you know what the attack does, it's put 3 cards from your discard pile into your hand. So if you remember Hollow Hunt off of Decidueye GX, it's the same thing as that, with unfortunately not as good an ability and an HP barrier. Now, if Boost Dash, you hit for 100 damage, so in combination with 9 Temptations, you can bring up, say, a weak Malamar onto the bench. You take a knockout by hitting for 100 on the Malamar with the Boost Dash. You take a prize card. Nothing in the Malamar deck can set up to hit 160 damage that next turn really efficiently, or consistently, I should say. So typically you're going to get hit for 130 damage on this EVGX, and you can use the ability Ascension DNA, which is once during your turn, if you have a Pokemon that in your hand that evolves from Eevee, you may put that card onto this Pokemon, evolve it, and before evolving, you can just heal all the damage off the Eevee. So if a Giratina, say, comes up and hits you for 130 damage on the EVGX, you just Cherish Ball, grab yourself Flareon, use Ascension DNA, evolve into Flareon, and now instead of just having Boost Dash, you have access to Bright Flame. Bright Flame for 100, it deals 190 damage, so it's a beefy attack as is. I actually found it very useful in the mirror. I'll go into that a little more in a second, but basically you Bright Flame, you knock out Giratina. If they have a spell tag, they can put all 4 onto the Flareon, and then you can just take another knockout on the Giratina the next turn. You can basically take up to 3 prizes with just the Eevee and the Flareon while only giving up realistically 2. So it offsets the prize trade fantastically in your favor without having to set up every single turn with, say, a Turtonator, or better yet, even a Volcanion or something, so it's a lot easier. Now, something that you may notice in this list is we do still play a Reshizard, and I cannot take all credit for this. I'm going to give some credit to my buddy Emery Taylor. When we were working on this list a couple weeks back, we were actually really not sure if Reshizard would be worth playing in the list, and that's what a lot of decks ended up not doing this weekend. They played Welder and Friends. We chose to play one more Reshizard in the list because you're forced your opponent to basically take the 8 prize card game. Most decks only play 2 to 4 custom catchers in their list, of course, so they can only really bring up 2 Pokemon on the bench. And unless they save their custom catchers to the end of the game and they just don't choose to use them, you can basically get to the point to where your opponent's taken 5 prizes and you can just put up a Reshizard in their face. And if they have no way to really gust it and one-shot this Reshizard, it can sit there and use Flare Strike, use Outrage, and just deal a significant amount of damage and force your opponent to effectively take the 8 prize game. Reshizard's really powerful in that matchup, of course, in any matchup really. Double Blaze GX I did end up using a couple times. The point of having Flareon, of course, is for Power Burner, but having access still to Hot Burn GX off of Heatran and off of Reshizard's GX move, you still have a lot of access and versatility in the deck, and you kind of play it however you wish. Now, of course, if you go second, you always want to abuse Volcanion if you can. You want to be able to Flare Starter. You can search your deck for 3 Fire Energies, attach them to your Pokemon however you like. In combination with the turn 1 Welder, the deck's absolutely insane. You can attach 6 energies in your first turn usually, and that can really set up some big knockouts with either Explosive Jet or maybe switching into Hot Burn GX off of a Heatran. Now, the mirror match is a little difficult. You want to be able to use 9 Temptations to your advantage to bring up Pokemon like their benched Vulpix, a Victini maybe onto their bench, or maybe bring up another GX Pokemon. But in the general grand scheme of things, 9 Temptations, if you don't end up getting it out, it's all about how you play your Pokemon in the matchup. So Steaming Stomp's a great secondary first turn attack. It's a great first turn attack in the mirror match. You can hit for 130 damage, take a knockout on something in the active, and just quickly get the prize trade going in your favor. I noticed in the mirror match quite often that was what my opponents would do. They'd put up a Heatran to the active, they hit me for 130 to knock out, maybe say an active Turtonator or an active Volcanion, And from that point on, having Flareon is just amazing. Bright Flame, of course, does exactly 190 damage, so they try to force you to... Most mirror matches, you know that your opponent can only attach 3 energies in a turn. So, of course, Startinator, if you can only attach 3 energies, you're only going to be able to cap out 150 damage per turn. Fortunately, though, with Flareon GX, free energies means you can hit for 190, and when a Heatran comes up to use a Steaming Stomp, maybe discarding energy that you attached the turn before, you can basically hit for 190, and with 210 HP, it's actually extremely difficult for most times for them to respond with a knockout. Meaning that even if they use Reshiram Charizard maybe, they can only hit you for 200 and you're still left with 200 with 10 HP left over. So if Flareon has that really good numbers in terms of HP, that it can't really easily get one-shot in the format if your opponent isn't really prepared for it. Now, one of the most cookie cutter matchups I ended up facing this weekend is Pikarom. Of course, I say cookie cutter because you need to really hit every single turn and play every single turn just about right. And so, if you go first, your goal is, of course, to attach as many energies as you can. So you want to be able to use Jirachi's Stellar Wish to look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You want to be able to grab your Welder. You want to be able to dig through cards using Dedenne GX. You want to be able to hit the Welder, attachment in return, and by your next turn, you want to effectively either have a Ninetales up, or just some way to hit 250 damage to one-shot a Pikarom. Now, you can do that in a variety of ways. Of course, you can bring up with a Reshizard maybe, not necessarily to one-shot, but to put some chip damage on a Pikarom. Another way you could basically take a free knockout is using Explosive Jet, and that was usually my most common way of knocking out Pikarom throughout the weekend. You attach over the course of 2 turns, you can attach up to 6 energies from your hand and using Welder, and Explosive Jet means you only have to discard 5 of those in order to take a knockout on Pikarom. So hitting for those easy knockouts, if you can prevent them from getting a full blitz off, it really just wins you the matchup, and if you go first, that's basically exactly what you can do. If you go second, of course, you want to be able to... Oh boy, PTCGO just memed on me. We're going to log back in here, don't mind me. I'm debating if I want to make that a blooper or not, or if I just want to log back in or not. I guess I've been sitting here too long going through the list. I'm hoping it puts me right back to the screen. But, of course, if they use Full Blitz, 150 damage can be a little bit of a problem if they can knock out something that already has fires attached. That's why you do want to have access to maybe discard a bunch of fire energies early on in the game. Power Burn GX you can use if needed early on to knock out a Pikarom. You only need 12 energies in your discard pile in order to do that. And frankly, if you can get that much energy in your discard pile, I'm surprised I got disconnected there. Power Burn GX still can hit for 240 damage on a Pikarom as early as turn 2. If you combine the early turns with getting maybe a giant Hearth out, grabbing 2 fires into your hand, discarding a lot of fires with maybe Day change, and or using Ninetales to discard a couple fires, you can use Power Burner and take an easy knockout for the most part on a Pokemon. But besides that, this list, I really enjoyed playing this list this weekend. I believe the only reason I didn't do as well in some of the matchups was due to my own shortcomings as a player and not being able to really play the deck as well as I could. Another thing I also feel was like dead draws were obviously a couple problems in one match. I believe my 4th match, shout out to Joshua Sutherland here actually. He was playing Blacephalon this weekend. I played game 1. I sat there, I looked at my hand, and I ended up basically using Stellar Wish, Escape Board, Retreat, into another Stellar Wish, and then Day change. I managed to hit 0 fire in my first turn of the game, but ended up hitting 3 Welders in my turn 1, which is not so good when you have to Day change 2 of them away. So, shout out to him. He ended up making Day 2 at the event, finishing 7-6-1. He honestly is a fantastic player, and I hope to have him on here for an upcoming podcast. But anyways, reverting back here, I ended up losing to him. Just hitting a lot of bad dead draws occasionally with this deck are common, frankly, because you play so many fire energies in the list. Other than that, I maxed out the consistency as much as I could with this list. That's why I play 4 Switch, 4 Pokecom, 4 Cherish Ball. I wanted to make it as streamlined as possible so you can always guarantee, if not increase your odds to the best possible chance of being able to hit that turn 1 Welder, and also being able to set up your field with, say, a Vulpix on the bench or another Pokemon. But besides that, this is the list. I already told you how I did for this weekend. If you guys have any comments, questions regarding the list below, feel free to comment below. I'm trying to work more on getting PTCGO online a little bit more. basically to do my streams and just working on recordings like this. If you like the video as opposed to the normal thing where I actually have the physical cards and I go through the list one by one, if you guys enjoy that, let me know down in the comments below. And of course, if you guys end up playing this list in an upcoming event, tell me how it does. Feel free to comment below. Tell me how Flareon works out for you, or if you already have been playing Flareon on your list, tell me how it's been working for you. And of course, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want to see more content like this in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good one.